Hello and welcome. I'm Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness, and this is my dear friend, Heather Marie.
Hi, I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate, and welcome to Channeled Squared, where we have extraordinary conversations about everyday life topics.
We sure do. Oh my word. We were like breaking the internet. There's a storm in California. Things are happening. So sorry we're late if you're hopping on with us live, but we're here now and it's an exciting time. I don't know about all of you guys. Well, I do know. A lot of people are feeling this like we're going through this ascension time. We are going through an ascension period, and this need for healing is right in our face, coming back to a place of peace, wholeness, and oneness. And we're excited because today we have a very special guest, Victoria Smith, who is a shaman, a shamanic practitioner, a healer, a medium. And we're going to talk all about her gifts today, what a shamanic journey is, what it entails, and how she helps people. So welcome, Victoria.
Hello, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're so excited for you to be here.
So excited. So I just want to put it out here so everybody understands how we found Victoria. Victoria is my healer. So she is who I go to when I need spiffying up and cleaning of energy, or if I feel like I've got a little hooligan hanging around my ankles. She is my go-to for all things like defunk, you know?
Takes a village, and Victoria is a part of your tribe. That's why I'm so excited to talk to her as well. So welcome to the show, Victoria.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, where should we start? Should we start of how you actually ended up on this journey? What did that look like for you? Tell me all the things.
I guess I started having a clear understanding of who I was and what my possibilities were when my mother passed away. Mm-hmm. I was starting to put a lot of puzzle pieces together of my life. As a very young child, I had a lot of experiences, feelings, emotions that I did not understand. And then when she passed away, I sort of broke in half. I just broke in half. And I wanted to be with her so badly that I would just sit and meditate and pray for hours about how to get to her.
Wow.
And in this brokenness, I started to have experiences that I could not explain, which made me think there was more out there than the reality that humanity experiences every day. And I went searching for that otherness, that spiritualism, the energies and the fear and the things the shadows that were showing up in my life. Just to give you one experience, this was way before my mother had passed away, but I had knowings about things. And I was at the mall at North County Fair years and years ago. And people all around us, just people all around us. I think it was even before the holidays. And I had this knowing that there was going to be someone that was going to attack me. And I'm like thinking,
how old are you at this point?
I was early 30s.
Wow.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. There's a mall full of people. And I'm walking and I look up and I totally make eye contact with this man. And I'm like, in my head, I hear that's him. And I'm like, okay, just, this is crazy. This isn't going to happen. Just keep walking. The gentleman got next to me, totally jumped on me and attacked me.
Oh
And
my goodness.
so I've had incidences like this where I've had knowings, but it never made any sense. So I started more and more paying attention to the knowings and not listening to my ego telling me that I was crazy, that this wasn't going to happen, because a lot of things did happen. And this particular one I walked right into.
I think that the thing that's so fascinating, not to interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt for just a second, is that I hear this so much from healers about this stuff that they went through as they were coming into their spiritual abilities, and I think that that is what makes healers in particularly so good at being healers, is that it's kind of like they've gone through it. I think that and I'm going to let you finish your story, but I just want to point that out, that you had this knowing and you knew that this was going to happen, and then this terrible thing happened, and it's almost like, do you wonder, I mean, obviously not while you were having the attack, you probably weren't wondering anything other than when is this going to be over, right? Yeah. But after the fact, in retrospect, do you wonder if this was divinely purposed so that you can be the powerful healer that you are today?
Yes, I think a number of those situations that happened to me were for that reason. But looking back, because I can now remove entities that are on people, I sort of wondered about this gentleman, if he was actually attacking me. Now, this may not make sense. If he was actually attacking me personally, or if he was attacking something that was on me.
Wow.
Like an energy, because of his attunement, because he was with a group of individuals that were being taken to the mall. And it almost seemed like when the woman grabbed this gentleman, I'm not going to bring you here anymore if you keep doing this, or if you, act out like this. So it took me hindsight and all the other things that went on in my life to wonder if it was attack on me or if it was actually attack on something I was carrying, because during my shamanic training, I was carrying entities that were not for my highest and best good. So I didn't know if this gentleman maybe had autism or something, and
it's possible. It's possible. When you, so I have so many questions. I just want to jump in. Vicky, tell us about your training. Who did you train with?
Well, I trained with Gary Gent, and his grandfather was a shaman. His father was a shaman, and he started his training when he was 8 or 9 years old. So there was a lot of knowledge that was passed on from him down from generations. And my training with him, I guess I should start with how I came across him. I was struggling after my mom died, and I was sort of seeking some professional help through some counseling. And there was some things going on that I did not understand. And his name kept coming up. And so I finally decided that I was going to talk to this gentleman, and I gave him a call. I can remember the day I was in the car with him, and I felt my own light was going out. My soul was, the light of my soul was dimming. And I felt like this was a time in my life where I needed to make a choice whether I was going to leave or stay.
Do you think that was like the culmination of everything that you were going through, Victoria? Or was it like, sometimes I've felt like I've been smacked upside the head in my life, like get on mission or let's get out of here. Like get your head out of your ass, Jody Lynn. Do you think it was something like that for you?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Because I was experiencing a lot of trauma at that time in my life that I had buried so deeply that I had totally forgotten about it. But when my mom left this time and space, some of these memories started coming back to me, and in the form of your body, has memory just as much as, maybe even more so than our minds, really.
Mm-hmm.
And my body was starting to remember a lot of things. And I just couldn't understand it. And through trying to seek the proper counseling, Gary's name kept coming up. And when it came up for the third time, I was in the car and I called him. I lived in San Diego and he lived in Portland, Oregon, or whereabouts. And he said, "Do you want to do this energetically?" And I said, "No, I want to meet the man face to face that's going to save my life." Those are the exact words that came out of my mouth.
Wow. So you
And
just knew.
I got in the car, went up to him. He did what is called a soul retrieval. And changed my life.
Wow.
Then before my husband came with me, before we got on the plane, he handed me his card. And he said something to the effect that you have done things in the past, and I would like to bring those forward for you. And I end up going out to the desert and training with him to become a shaman.
Wow.
And I remember my husband dropping me off because it was just the two of us. And I remember him answering the door, and I said, "I do not want to do this. I have to tell you, I am scared to death. I do not want to do this.
Wow.
But something in me knows I have to." And he said, "Yes, you're right."
Wow. Okay, I've got more questions. Soul retrieval, can you explain more about what that is? Like who took these pieces from you? How do we lose pieces of our soul? For
Yes.
those who don't know this, what does that mean? And how do you get them back?
Well, you lose pieces of your soul when you go through something traumatic. And there's really no measure, you can't say, well, my trauma was more than yours. Everybody has their own trauma. You could have trauma from being fired from a job. You could have trauma from getting a divorce. You can have trauma from someone physically abusing you for years. You can have trauma from lots of different things. And the soul at times has to leave because it cannot handle the trauma. And if you lose so many soul pieces, like I said, your light starts getting dimmer and dimmer.
Wow.
And so he had to bring back like 9 soul pieces for me. And he told me that he's never seen someone with 10 soul pieces gone. He's normally like 7 soul pieces. And so or even 3 is, is basically the general amount. So when I got there, I was on my way out of this earth plane.
Wow.
So what he taught me to do, which he did for me, but he taught me to journey. And what it's like, I go into a journey into almost like a hypnotic place through drumming and then I start seeing scenes of what happened to this person that I am journeying for. And I have to, a lot of times these journeys can take, 45 minutes to an hour. And so I'm just experiencing trauma after trauma after trauma that this person has had. And then I come out of that dream trance state. I write down everything I can scribble as fast as I can and tell the person what happened. And sometimes the soul pieces don't want to come back. They feel too traumatized, or they feel like that if they come back, they'll just be damaged again. So sometimes in the journey, I've had to tell the person that, this particular trauma happened when she was, say, 16, and she's 40 now, and she's a successful, doctor or this or that, and she can take care of you now, and it's almost like a little piece of you.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I can convince the soul to come back and give this person a chance. Does that make sense?
I know for me, I've had Victoria recall soul pieces for me. And I know for me personally, they were, one of them in particular was when I was quite young. I mean, I think I was 5 or 6 years old. And it was crazy because like I'd completely forgotten about the incident. Like I had no recollection of the incident, but the way she described it in such great detail, it was like, how would she know about that glass mixing bowl, right? It was basically a fight between me and my sister. And we were arguing about who was going to help do the mixing in the mixing bowl. And we ended up dropping the mixing bowl and the bowl broke. And my mom got mad about the bowl breaking, right? And about us being ridiculous kids. Well, I lost a soul piece in that. And so when Victoria recovered it, there was like kind of like a process afterwards that I had to do in order to like actually like reintegrate it and have it feel like it wants to be with me. And I think that was the thing that was so like awesome and special about it was like even though she kind of like went in, she got the information, she kind of did the work to bring it back to me. It was very much, I felt like I got to be a part of it too, because I got to like do that stuff afterwards to really like reintegrate that piece of me back into my soul. And it's like, it's such powerful work, It was just such an awesome experience. Not, here I am interrupting again.
No, I remember that.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you see something, you don't understand it, but then you relate it to the person. And sometimes it's symbolic, and sometimes I actually see the scene itself, like it's playing out in front of me. And other times I may just see a person that there's a board in the middle of their stomach, and so they're divided in half about something. But then when I explain what I've been shown and what I feel, sometimes it's not even words that are given to me. It's almost like the words come through a feeling of knowing these words. I don't know but
I mean, that makes complete sense to us because,
Yeah.
I mean, as a channel, that's how we receive information too. And and it's so, isn't it interesting how even like her, Victoria being a shaman, us being channels,
Yeah.
like the information comes in the same, right? It's like we still receive the information. And even though the information may seem completely like insane and irrelevant to what is actually happening, to the person receiving the information, it's like spot on, right? It's just gold. Like they just get it. And they're like, I don't know, I'm seeing a tuna fish. And they're like, oh my God, my grandfather was a tuna captain,
Yeah.
Well, I remember one lesson that I learned too, is because I thought I was doing the person a favor, because they were asking me if they went to this particular place that they were being called to, what would happen. And so I journeyed on what would happen if they went. But what I saw was too gory and too tragic that I changed the scenario. I dumbed it down, if you might say. And then so when I went back to tell this person what happened, he said, everything relates except for you're saying knife. And this traditional killing is with a sword. And it was really a sword that I had seen, this huge sword. And there I was. And what am I going to go? Oh, I lied. You know what I mean?
I held back because I was afraid you'd think I'm crazy. I think at some point in everyone's journey, whether channel or healer or whatever, getting into this, I don't know. I've felt this way where I'm like, do I want to say that?
I know, but it's a big lesson. You have to say what you actually see, because then I actually did have to come clean and say it was a sword. I told you a knife.
Yeah. I mean, really, and that is like such a great, a great example of stuff that I think every person who works in the spiritual, like, I think that everyone has had an instance like that, where it's like they've tried to sugarcoat it or make it seem easier for the person to digest. And so they've kind of like fluffed it a little bit, and it ends up being sort of like a detriment to the actual like reading, because the reality is they're giving it to you straight. You got to deliver it straight. That's I know when I work with some of my students, that's something that I really try to hammer home, is like, you just give it to them straight. Even if it makes complete nonsense, just say what you see, and, I think that when you get into that, there is still also kind of that little like piece of you that's like, well, if you receive information that could, alter their free will, you run into this moral dilemma of like, do I give them this information? Do you ask if you give them the information? Like, this could alter your free will by knowing this. Are you sure you want to know? Like, I think we all deal with stuff like that, channels, mediums, healers, across the board. We always seem to have to decipher, like, how do you handle those types of situations?
Yeah.
So
I had an experience where I had to tell someone that they really loved was like a Dr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll. And that was another very difficult thing for me to say. This is not the person you think they are. They're only showing you this side of you, of them. And they've got this horrible side that you want to get away from. Mm-hmm. So it's not always easy, I mean, there's some wonderful, wonderful blessings healing people. And I definitely, am very thankful for my gifts and my guides and my abilities. But sometimes you just have to, like you said, say what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have, I've known Victoria for a very long time. And the very first journey that Victoria did for me was, I was dating this man, and, I had known him for quite a long time, and I was out of a tumultuous relationship. And, this man was literally the only person I dated before I met my husband. And, I was just like, what is going on in this retarded, like, relationship thing that I'm in, right? And so I was talking to Victoria about it, and she said, I can do a journey on that if you'd like. And I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? Please give me the news, And so when she came back to me, she gave me the story of, she goes, I see a man and he is like opening the door and he's like presenting his heart, and then he takes it back, and then he gives it, and then he takes it back, and then he gives it. And it was like, this was exactly this relationship with this man, right? It was like completely infuriating. And then she says, and then she goes, the next thing I saw was you meeting a man at like a class, like you leave this class with this man. And I was like, of course, my mind went wild, right? Because I was like, oh my gosh, have I already met this man? Have I been to this class? Because I was in this really like major place of like self-discovery and like doing a lot of like internal healing work. And I was like, so I was going to classes, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to meet this man at this class if I haven't met him already. And so I'm like going, oh my gosh, who's the man? Who's the man? Right. And at any rate, I fast forward, this other in and out man with his heart ended up leaving my sphere of existence, or I just was like, we're done with this. And it wasn't but a few weeks later that I did a shamanic workshop with none other but Gary Gent. And I met my husband in that training class. So
I never knew who that man was either. I just saw the shape.
She just saw a man. And so, and that's the most beautiful thing about like these journeys is it's like, it's not even just fixing the shit that happened before, but it's like, you can see like the wonderful, beautiful things that are coming down the pipe for you too. So, it's just such a lovely gift that you have, Victoria. And like, I'm so blessed to know you.
I feel the same way about you. I mean, I feel like in a way we're all three very much the same, because you guys channel information from the divine and I channel energy.
Mm-hmm.
For healing. So
how does that show up for you, Victoria? Like, do you see like certain things on someone's body? Like just looking at me, can you see like, oh, there's a piece of her face missing, or like, how does it work?
Well, if I do a shamanic journey, because there's the shamanic journey and then there's the hands-on healing. The shamanic journey is a lot of symbolism. Like if they suffered maybe a lot of abuse, my guides will bring a person to me in this journey, and I can see like knives or something all over them. It's so I can see that there's pain. And so it like I said, it shows up in symbolism.
Yeah.
And so my guides and I work, and we pull the knives out of this person, and then we send some healing energy into the wounds. And if there is an entity on this person, we get rid of the entity. And so it's just, I see all kinds of different things. I can see like their light fading, which would probably mean like a soul retrieval. So I can see like, say that maybe they're limping, so I know they have some pain in a leg. So we heal the leg. And then on a hands-on healing, it's like, I just know where to like send the light. If the person doesn't know themselves what's going on, sometimes they'll just say, I have a pain in my shoulder. So I do my ritual, call down my guides, and my guides send the healing through the top of my head and through my body and out my hands. And I just put my hands on where the person says it hurts. And almost all the time, it's either 100% gone or 80% gone.
Wow.
But I may not always know, but it's like I scan their body. So I see a light somewhere where the healing needs to go, but I don't necessarily know if it's actually their chest or it's a bone behind their chest or whatever. So
Yeah.
I
Just intuitive.
yeah, it's just more intuitive that way.
Wow.
And I know it probably, if I did journeys and and journey, I could get the information, but it's not like you guys where you just download it. I've got to like read an encyclopedia and try to put all the puzzles together and figure. So I just go, they got the healing. Why do I care really, what the actual problem was, as long as it's healed?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here to heal them, and I can't always diagnose what I healed.
Hey, if it feels better, it doesn't matter.
Totally.
I with the soul retrieval piece, I'm trying to think of like sitting here watching this conversation with you, and like, yeah, sure, people could be thinking, I've been through a lot of trauma and I'm still here, I'm okay. Like, what do I need those pieces back for? Like, what happens when you are, or if you are able to bring those pieces back to somebody? What's the impact of that? How could their world change just by simply doing that?
Well, let's just say first, you kind of want to look at do they feel depressed all the time, or do they not have any kind of joy for life like they used to? Do they have a lot of fear? I have the question here, I don't really have with me, but I ask my clients these questions. And if they've changed somewhat for like more negative than positive, then I will ask them, was there a specific time in your life when you noticed that you were a lot less happier, or you don't really care to go out anymore, or you're not thinking clearly, you're depressed, you don't sleep? And then sometimes they'll describe a loss, and then I can investigate whether the soul piece actually left during that time period. So a lot of times soul pieces will leave, like I said, when something really traumatic happens. But sometimes it doesn't have to
It's
always
a bowl.
be that traumatic. What's that?
I said sometimes it's a bowl breaking on the
So
floor.
I mean, if they're really young, it could be mom just saying, you're an awful child. Why did I ever have you? And,
Yeah.
And it's not, she was just, she didn't really mean it. She had 6 other kids at the time, and it was just a bad day for her. But to a child, that can like strike deep into a heart, where they don't even know till years and years and years later that all of a sudden they felt like their mother's love was cut off from them in some way.
Yeah.
So it's very different for everyone.
Yeah. Do we, when we pass on, I believe that there's multiple lifetimes that we've had. Do we lose pieces in each lifetime? Like, is it slowly chipping away from all of the trauma we've experienced in multiple lifetimes? Or, when you pass on, do you get put back together like Humpty Dumpty and you get a new shot at a brand new soul? Or not a brand new soul, but your soul gets brought all back together and you start whole again? Or
well, it's kind of both, really, because I'll just tell you a story about myself. I went to do a journey on a friend of mine, and we used to kid that we were sisters. We used to say, because we kind of looked a lot alike, but we used to say, we were sisters. And I went to do a journey on her, and found myself as a child in that journey. And I had lost a soul piece through her in a past life. And my little soul thought I was coming to get her because she was stuck there in that life because she had died as a result of this action my friend took. It was so tangled up. And so I had to look at this little soul that was mine and say, I'm sorry, I'm not here for her. I'm trying to heal her. I'll come back for you. So the following day, I did another journey to go get my soul. So sometimes it just depends on really what your purpose in your life here is about. Sometimes you come back all fresh and brand new soul, and other times you are meant to carry that damage forward for growth, for experience, or whatever. But did that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of both. Depends on, why you're here. That makes total sense. That blows my mind that, your best friend or your friend, you did a journey on them and found a piece of you. I wonder, Heather, if we're sisters.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, I am a firm believer that, everybody that comes into your life, in your waking life is part of like a soul family, or, like when you have a strong connection with someone or a group of people, I really feel like it's because you are family on the other side and you are being reunited in this experience to play a role in the experience for each of us. I did a soul tattoo on someone that Victoria and I both know. And in that experience, it was discovered that we were like twin siblings, and I convinced him to jump off a cliff that he could fly in a previous lifetime. So yeah, had to clean that up. Apologize for that. And so, of course he is in my life again now, and it's really, it's kind of cool, I think, when you get to have these experiences, in a waking life relationship now, and then you discover your previous lifetimes together. In the beginning, sometimes I think that work can feel very hard and very emotional, but the more you do of it, the more entertaining I think it kind of becomes, because you're like, oh, we're doing this again. Sorry, I killed you back then. Didn't mean to.
Didn't mean to.
But I think that I think that there is so much beauty to this type of work. And even if it is painful going through the experience, the relief and the clarity and the wholeness that you feel on the other side of things, it's just so beautiful. And I want to like kind of jump away from our conversation for just a second, because I think that we're having some technical problems. So
we're just too powerful.
I know, right? Or the storm is just wreaking havoc on San Diego.
Yeah.
So if you're just coming back, don't worry. We're going to put this up, as a recording. It is recording, we think. So hopefully that didn't completely cut out, but if you just kind of refresh and come back to it, it should work again for you. Either way, we're going to post this live as a recording probably tomorrow. So for anybody who's coming back on, sorry, we digress.
That's okay. It's all supposed to be happening. When you were talking, Heather, about, your friend that you convinced could fly, it reminded me of something that we have channeled, which I thought was really incredible. In past lives of mine, I have been, I don't even remember what we called it, just basically like like internment camps, kind of things, like I was a slave. But my husband, who's from the future, would always swoop in and save my soul before I actually was taken by the polarity, the darkness every time. So I think it'd be really interesting to see a journey of like what would actually come up with that, if you would see the times that he saved me, or, you know, I don't, it might be too dark to go back and see all the pieces that were lost in those lifetimes and just hope that they came back for this one because they're needed here. I don't know.
It's all about growth, I've found out.
Right. Wow.
Because I mean, I've had a good friend of mine that I can't heal no matter how much I try. It's now been figured out, but in the past, and it turns out that there was a past life with us where I was some type of medicine man or something like that, and he was really ill and sick, and I was mixing up some herbs, and these herbs were supposed to heal him, but unbeknownst to me, there was some type of jealousy going on with somebody else, and they put something else in the herbs that would kill him. And I thought I killed him. He thought I killed him. And so in this life, if I try to help him, he's like, no, 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 stay away, stay away.
Oh,
Don't you
no, please don't heal me.
Wow.
That's
I never
funny.
knew why he wasn't accepting the healing.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Their past life, somewhere deep in his subconscious, he wasn't going to accept anything from me because of what happened in past life.
And I think that's a really great point that I want to like draw down on, accepting the healing, because you have some incredible stories, Victoria, on how you have healed people in miraculous ways. And I hope you do share a couple of examples of that, and how you have to be open to accepting said healing where it has the potential of not working because you're closed off to it. Can you speak more to those things?
That, I think, is one of my biggest hurdles, because all of us here, the three of us, you know, we're all about humanity and helping humanity. And when you know you have, it's not me, because it's the divine healing the person. It's just through me. I'm just a conduit. But when I know that that energy is available to them and is being given to them, and they don't accept it, it's difficult for me, for them. But in our society, it's just not the way we've been brought up, is that there are people out there walking around that have been given divine energy that can help and assist you. So if you've got your ego, or you've got people saying that person's crazy, then that's going to interfere with the energy. It's going to block it. In fact, I had a gal that I worked on a couple of her friends and was very, very successful. And she was very excited to come up and experience me. And she got up here, and I think she was expecting to see someone with a lot of bracelets and chimes and I don't know what, but I could tell when I opened the door, she looked at me and was like, you know, not what she expected. I looked like an ordinary person. So we went down in the teepee, and I was working on her, and I had healed injuries that she herself had had in the past with absolutely no problem. And her rotator cuff was not working right. And it turns out after she left, you know, I said, I'm sorry, you know, you're for some reason, this is not meant to be. So I took a journey on it, and she was in the middle of a divorce. And this injury was something she couldn't let go of because her husband had pushed her and she'd fallen over, and she was getting sympathy from this injury. And they said, you know, she still needs to be wounded and you can't help her because she's still attached to that wound, the marriage, the divorce, and then the people can see she's physically wounded.
And I think that's so fascinating that we get so invested in our pain and addicted almost to our pain that we're not willing to let it go for fear of losing what that gives us or what that provides for us. And it's totally like a mind game, but it happens so often. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that, yeah, I was like, oh, I understand, because I've been in that situation, where kind of refusing help because maybe you didn't think you deserved the help, or you were loved enough for the help, or the person trying to help you. And you just like, and then later on, maybe you look down and go, should have accepted the help. I wouldn't have had to go through all of these things if I had just loved myself more. And I think that's the one big thing that society has a problem with, is loving themselves,
Without judgment.
I mean, I literally crossed myself over one time because I was actually part of the Atlantis when that island sunk. And so I was told I had past lives that I needed to cross over. And I found myself there and crossed my...
What? Ourselves in a past life may not have crossed over. So it could be just like...
Oh yeah, I had not crossed over. I had not crossed over then because for some reason I felt responsible for what was going on with Atlantis. And so I hadn't crossed over. So I went on a journey and crossed myself over and literally went through the tunnel of light that they talk about. I mean, and amazing. I didn't experience God at the end because I was here, but I charged through the light as if I was being electrocuted. And that went on for a while. And then at the very end, I felt a love that you cannot describe. There is no English word or words that can describe what I felt. And ever since then, I've never been afraid to die.
Wow.
But I crossed myself over.
That's amazing. So I know while you're over there collecting your brain pieces and putting them back in your head, I think that, we're running low on time, but I want to touch on a particular case, if I may, and you can say, no, it's off limits, but I want to talk about the one who you helped heal the heart situation. Are you open to telling the story?
Yes. So, I mean, yeah, because
Okay.
I'm not going to use any names. So.
Right. Yeah. So this, the reason I really would love to, for you to share this story is because it really shows the power in what it is that you do. And I'm getting goosebumps from head to toe just thinking about this story because it's so amazing. And I think that when people think about shamans, shamai, I don't know what the plural version of shaman is, but when you think about this type of energy healing, and sometimes people sort of go, oh yeah, it's like Reiki, it's like this, and it's nothing like Reiki. Okay, I am a Reiki master teacher, and this is not that. So I would love for you to share the story with our audience because I think that it really captures the power behind what it is that you do. So please
Okay.
tell us
Okay.
this magical story.
I'll just start. Maybe most people are familiar with the game Bunko. So it's a dice game. And I would get together with a group of other 11 girls and myself, 12. And we would play this game, this dice game. It's really simple. You can drink and have fun and don't have to think too much. Just you have to know how to count a couple dice. Anyway, and so, but as you move from table to table, which means from chair to chair, depending on if your team lost or won. So I was moving from one chair to another, and I sat down in a chair, and I felt some of the largest fear I have ever felt in my life. I mean, my whole body was just resonating fear, just extreme fear. And so I'm trying to catch my breath and just pretend nothing's going on, you know. And so days later, I had worked on a friend, done some shamanic work. And she says, I have a gal that we play bunco with. I was wondering if you would talk to her because she has a long history of heart disease. She's trying to get on a heart transplant list, but she can't get on a list because she's not even strong enough to pass in the test. And so I meet with her, and she was there that night. And this is a couple months later. And I said, you've been dealing this for a while, haven't you? I said, a couple months ago when we were playing bunco, I said, I felt your fear. And I explained what happened. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, I could hardly keep myself together. I was so afraid because basically her life is very much on this little tiny string. So anyway, so I agreed to help her and did some journeys on her. And a great, great, great grandmother in her past had cursed everybody going forward because her husband had died when she was about 50 years old. And she just cursed love. Nobody should have to live through this. Nobody should have to live through this. No one is going to live through this. So those words resonated throughout their generation. And for many generations, most of the family members, male and female, did not live past like 55. Some made it to like 60. So she was, I'll guess her age. I guess she was like about 55. And her light was going out. So I had a talk with her great grandmother or her great great grandmother and asked to reverse this curse. And she wouldn't for a while, but then finally she did. But then I had to still heal this gal's heart. She, like I said, she couldn't get on any kind of list for heart transplant, but I started working on her, and she was able to take the test. She would go to the test, to the doctors and stress test, and she'd come up and check in, and then the practitioner would look at the papers, look at her, look at the papers. I think I've got the wrong file. And then so they go, you're da da da, you live at this address, yes, 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 yes. And she goes, you don't match this file. She had changed so much. She was able to pass all these stress tests. She was walking up and down stairs. Her bed had actually been moved downstairs because she had too many stairs where her bedroom upstairs. Everything. She was practically running. She was breathing very well. She was able to get on the transplant list. I was able to bring my guides in to protect the surgery for the transplant. So the doctors would do everything correctly, the space, the nurses, anybody that was in charge of her health was being divinely guided. And she came out of that living colors. And that
That
the greatest
is
divine stories I mean,
That it's such an amazing thing, Victoria. Like you met her, you felt the fear, you had her, you did the healing work on her, you got her prepared. She was able to get on a transplant list that she wasn't even eligible for before. They had basically written her off for dead in the medical community. And you, after working with you, she was able to get a transplant, and she's alive and well today.
she even told me that when she came out of surgery, she saw this bright light, this sphere just all around her. She said, when I opened my eyes, she said there was this bright light there. And she goes, and I just, wondering if it was the drugs, but she goes, I closed my eyes, I opened it back up. And she says, and I knew in my heart that the divine was telling me that I was going to be fine.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's just amazing.
I mean, even to this day, she, when we don't see each other that much right now because we're not playing bunco. But it was an amazing experience for me, myself, and for her, and what the divine will do. I mean, just if you think about all of those steps that brought her to that experience.
Yeah. And such a divine testament of your ability as a healer, your ability to be that conduit for the divine, and just how incredibly talented you are.
Not only that, but I don't know how it even happened, but she was on the top of the list. Within 3 months, she got a call that there was a heart for her.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing.
Because I remember her calling me, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And she's like, I got a heart. I'm rushing to the hospital. Because I told her, when you finally get this opportunity, please let me know. So, the divine can help assist in the operating room. And she was afraid she wasn't going to get a hold of me, like I'd gone to bed or something. But that was even planned because I was just getting ready to go to bed when the phone rang.
Wow. Oh man, we could go on for hours with you, Victoria. I feel like there's still so much untouched that we could really tap into. And I definitely think that we're going to have to at some point, but we are out of time for today. So, really tell us, how can people connect with you so that you can help them on this healing journey, whether it's, a shamanic journey or like helping them get the soul pieces, or, you're going to know what they need, but how can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Well, so far I've always been word of mouth because I'm just not, out there trying to, get people to come into me, because I figure things are divinely guided. But my guides have been recently telling me people need to find you. It can't always be a friend of a friend of a friend. So,
and this is the word of mouth right now. We are spreading the word of mouth right now about you.
Yeah. So I'm having a website built. It's not up yet, but it's going to be divinity.healer@gmail.com.
That's your email.
That's the email.
divinity.healer@gmail.com. And we're going to have it all in the show notes, or the description below, so they can just click on it and copy and paste it.
So I hope it's going to be up in the next month or two, but I don't know.
That's your email.
Yeah, it's an email. So, but
yeah. So email's best for now.
Right.
Excellent.
For right now, email. Yeah.
Great. When you do have your website
in front of me.
yeah.
Yeah, worst case, reach out to us and we'll connect you with Victoria. Amazing. Yes. Well, we are completely out of time today. We want to thank you so much for being our guest today. I learned a lot. I feel like I can't really talk because my brains are still on the table. I need to take a moment and digest everything that you've said, but we really appreciate you coming on here, and we're definitely going to have you back. Right, Heather?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yes. Check out all of the description of the video to get a hold of Victoria. Connect with her if you want to go through that healing process. And, like Heather said, she's a divine healer. You can feel that from you, Victoria. I feel that just speaking with you. This is the first time that we've met, face to face, sort of through camera to camera, right? It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
You girls every week too. So even if I'm not watching it happen, that moment, I'm always listening later. So thank you.
I love it. It's amazing. And next week we have, since it's the week before Christmas, everybody's gearing up for Christmas. We're going to be trans channeling live, consciously channeling live. So that's our special Christmas gift to all of you guys. So make sure that you mark your calendars, set an alarm, something, 1 Pacific on Tuesday. Next week, we are going to be channeling live. So it'll be awesome. Heather, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, you just said it all so clearly. So we'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.